Maps of Misterra is a competitive game revolving around the mechanic of tile laying, which is one of my favorite mechanics. So when I realized that you were gonna do it in two locations in this game, on a personal board and on a general board, I was pretty excited. The game is competitive for 2 to 4 players mainly. It also has a solo version that you play against an automa, but I haven't tried that one, so I'll leave it to you to explore if you so desire. We have a board that represents an island that we are exploring and mapping. I already placed some tiles there. Usually if you're playing 2 players, you only have those 3 tiles of jungle at the beginning of the game. I think it's easier to explain the game the way though. So we have the grid of the island, we have stacks of tiles that have 2 sides. One is confirmed when you place it on the board and it's side up, it's confirmed, nothing can change that anymore, that's the land that is in that tile. And the other one is when it's unconfirmed, misty, just an hypothesis that may be plains, that may be jungles or lagoon or mountains. Then each player will have a personal board, that is where you make your hypothesis about what might be on the island. You also have 3 tokens that you'll get to place during the game to score points at the end of the game. Each player also has 2 cards that are kept secret. You receive a number at the beginning of the game and you choose the 2 that you want to keep, and it will give you different ways of scoring points at the end of the game, and you will reveal it then. It's very important, you need to place the orientation of your board so that it matches the orientation of the main board. Say here there are Roman numerals from 5 to 1, here we have letters E to A, and so I need to match so that the same numerals are there and the same letters are there. I'm gonna move the board closer there just to explain the game, but it shouldn't be there usually when you play the game. Each turn, each player's turn, basically you take 2 mini turns. That's an unusual concept, but that's the way it works. You go through the same mini script, then you have the game to be a full turn. You go through the same script, taking 2 mini turns twice. During one of your 2 mini turns, you may move by 1 space orthogonally from wherever your explorer are. So from there, I could go here, I could go there. Different kind of terrains also have different abilities that may trigger different times in the turn. For example, when I enter plains, I can move an extra space. So from there, if I want, I could go there or there, but I decide that I'm happy there. After doing that, I must take one of these cards. One of these cards representing sketches on my board, I guess, because they go on your personal board. You must, whether you like it or not, because this deck is also one of the timers of the game. Matter of fact, that's one of the ways that can trigger the end of the game. Another one is if the island has been entirely covered by confirmed tiles, that also triggers the end of the game. So I must take a tile, and suppose I take this one. I do not replenish that yet. Then I can decide what to do with it. Usually, you will place it on your board for mapping. However, a couple of times during the game, you may instead discard it to place one of these tokens on the board to take control of territories, but again, it may happen only up to 3 times per game. Most of the time, you will map, that is, you will place the tile on your board. These are sketches that your person is doing based on what they see in their current location. So I need to center it around my current location, which is 2D. 2D. So my character on the main board is here on my personal board. That means that I need to place this tile either here, or here, or here, or there, of course, in either orientation. So I have these 8 possible things. And it doesn't matter what the island shows. I can still place it there because I can write down whatever I want. I can also write down things that are incorrect. That's perfectly fine. What happens next, however, depends. After that, we check if my sketches match the island, and different things may happen there. say, if the sketch that I just placed points to an empty space, then I take a tile of the corresponding terrain, say mountain for plains for plains, and I place it there unconfirmed, misty side up. So that's what happened there. However, had I done this, now the tile that I placed matches an unconfirmed tile that was already there. See, now 2E has an unconfirmed plains in both places, then I confirm it. So basically, to the first time you place a tile, and it takes basically two times a certain terrain being placed on a position to confirm it. Maybe other players, then maybe the next player was the one confirming or the one putting it there. It doesn't matter. It may be me. Maybe later I do that and that would confirm an unconfirmed tile. If, however, of course I got two terrains. If the kind of terrain I just placed on my board does not match an unconfirmed terrain in the same location, then I need to change it. Oh, it turns out that the hypothesis that may be plains was incorrect. So now we're gonna do that. We're gonna match it that way. That's the general idea. And I know you have an inquisitive mind, so you're wondering, I suppose that was actually the situation at the beginning of the turn. I placed it that way. No, I'll place it that way. Booyah. My point is, when you place a personal tile and the corresponding space is confirmed, who cares? Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to match. Doesn't have to do anything. It's a good idea if it does match, because at the end of the game you'll score 2 points for each section of your map that matches a confirmed tile, but you don't have to. So this is the general idea for each mini turn, because remember you got 2. So suppose that that's the turn that I took. Now I take another mini turn in which I can choose to move, and maybe I do. I decide to go there. And then I have to choose another tile, another card, and I must place it, and I must center around where I am. And I could do this, I could do that, I could do that, I could switch it different ways. I decide to do that, which means it confirms the mountains. And well, I just place something that doesn't match there, but that doesn't matter. I'm authorized to do that. Once I'm done with my 2 mini turns, so the next player takes 2 mini turns, so we continue like this. We were talking about these tokens here. Again, you still need to collect a card, but you can discard it instead of place it on your map to place one of these tokens. And you place one of these tokens to take control of territory. So, for example, I take control of that mountainous territory there. Why is this important? Because at the end of the game, there will be more ways of scoring. Each tile in a territory that I control will be worth 2 points. So, for example, that's some mountain territory of 2, and later in the game, maybe that will be the situation. Booyah. And that would be 8. They have to be confirmed, though, because suppose that is the situation, and now my wife that I played the game with comes there and says, oh, I think that's what we got there. Boom. And then we got suppose actually she places 2 lagoons there. She loves that kind of terrain. Boom, boom. She places 2 lagoons. That's great. And then for her second mini turn, she plays this one on her map. Now she has confirmed that lagoon. She's matching that jungle, so that's a great performance on her board. And oh, lo and behold, my mountain territory is not as big as I thought it could be. So there's definitely strategy there in when you claim a territory and what you do with it, because most likely you want to expand it as much as possible. If you got to a point where 2 separate territories merge, say my wife has a mountain territory here and I had one and the mountains merge, too bad, no one scores it. This is how you play maps of Misterra. Take your 2 mini turns, possibly moving, collecting tiles, usually mapping, occasionally taking control of territories. reconciling as much as possible your personal map with the board. And at the end of the game, you will score 2 points for each tile that matches where your map matches the board. 1 point, 0 points if you have a tile that is covered but doesn't match, so they'll get 0 points for that. A penalty of -1 for each space on your board that is simply empty. Points for those special scoring cards that we collected, that we selected at the beginning of the game. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If they're not, there's an explanation on the rule book. And then 2 points for each tile in your territories. Player with the highest score wins the game. Maps of Misterra. I like this game. The title is really clever. The more I think about it, you got the mist, you got the terra, you got the mystery. Super clever. But I don't play the title, I play the game, and this game is very nice. Now, little disclaimer, I played it only with 2 players, and I think it's a great 2-player game. I don't know that I want to play it with more players. The one thing that happens, which is not a problem with 2 players, is of course there's a lot to think, and the space is pretty tight, so the decisions that you make can have significant ramifications. If you find yourself trapped in an area because the other player has placed certain tiles around you, you wanted to move on the planes and now you can't. If you make a mistake in one of your territories, ends up being very small, those have a huge impact. So you will want to take your sweet time to make sure that you don't make egregious mistakes. And with 2 players, you also have a good degree of control. I know more or less how much my opponent may mess up the map, and I take that into account. Say, if I claim a territory that still has some misty areas around it, my opponent may cut off part of it, as I showed you in that example. So, 2 players to me is great because I can take my time thinking, and there are 3 other people waiting, and I don't have to wait for long because then my opponent is also taking their time but doesn't generate too much downtime. And there is just a really nice balance between control and challenge, how much I can do and how much I can make my decisions knowing what's going to happen, with a degree, of course, of things that I don't know exactly. So just the right balance of strategy and unpredictable elements that will be brought by my opponent. With 3 or 4 players, I'm afraid that's going to be too much randomness, that by the time the turn comes back to me, I'll have to do even more thinking, more analysis paralysis, because of the people messed up the situation. They put me in a spot that is really disadvantageous, and now I'm taking even a sweeter time to figure out if there is a way out. These are my hypotheses based on playing 2 players, and what I'm thinking, I'm good. To me, it's going to be a 2-player game. Play with your spouse game even, because the player I played it with is my wife. Turns out she likes it also a lot, so that's great. So, and if you play with 3 or 4 and it was like, oh my gosh, epic experience, so awesome, let me know, add it in the comments, that's okay. So, as a 2-player game, I like it very much. I think I already told you just why. Because you have a range of decisions that are very nice and satisfying to consider. You have 5 tiles, some will be obviously necessary, some will be interesting, so you got 2 or 3 that you want to consider. You got to take into account how much the map may change. There is a push your luck or push your strategy element when it comes to claiming those territories. I can claim it now when the territory is okay. Or I can claim it later when the territory will be awesome, unless somebody else takes it or somebody else messes it up. So you need to decide how much you want to enlarge it and consolidate it. Incidentally, it's nice and large and consolidated, and then the other person steps in and takes it. So there's a nice element there in the decision of when to do that. So you got Maps of Misterra, tile tile laying game with a double space for laying those tiles, which is awesome because that's a mechanic that I love very much, so twice the fun. With very interesting interactions, very nice idea, this hypothesis confirming thing. To me, it works very well. The components look nice. Switching tiles around didn't feel as cumbersome as I feared it might be when I was reading the rulebook. So in general, I'm very happy. I'm very pleased with Maps on Misterra as a two-player game though. The other version, I'm not super interested in trying, but you let me know what you think if you did try it.